Setup for the game is very simple. What you're going to do is each player is going to get one of these little cards slots here. They're going to start with a random. There are 5 of these tokens, and you're just going to dole it out around the board. Each give one player one of these, and they're going to start with one of the extinct or thought extinct species, and they're going to also start with all their men here. They're going to have men on the score track. All these tiles are, you can shuffle them around, put them around this little circle here, and then you'll put out little tokens in between all the numbers on the board. You're going to have some extra tokens left over at the beginning of every game, because the game will always be different. Everyone starts with 5 cubes. That's 1 of each color, and the first player will get the first player start token. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to deal out 3 of these cards to each player, and then they're going to look at these cards and they're going to put them in these slots, A, B, and D. If you notice, C is not a card there, so you wouldn't put a card there. You put one A, B, and D. So what would you do for A? You have all these actions. A is going to be the top action here, and it's going to give you an ability throughout the game. And so one of these cards I'm going to put up here, and they're very easy to read. This one says, hey, whenever I capture a dodo, I get 3 bonus points. Or, hey, whenever I land on a gray space, I get a cube of my color, or of whatever color I want. Or whenever I get a black cube or gray cube, I get another gray cube. So I have to decide which one of these I want. Well, whichever one I want, I'll take and put face down there. And then the second thing I have to do for the B slot is decide, this is B slot here. It even tells you on your little player board, say, hey, here it highlights, this is for cubes here. And of course, this is for, animals. So I have to see what type of cube I want. Do I want a brown cube or a gray cube? Well, I'm going to say gray cube, so I'm going to put it down right there. Now, for C, you'll skip for right now and go to D. So that means D, I'm going to push up on the frogs there, which actually is going to help me out. So I do this. Well, all players are going to do the same thing, and simultaneously, they're going to flip this over, and they're going to put it in one of the 3 open spots they have. Now, if these spots are full of other cards, you'll just place it in front of another card. So your special abilities in the game will always be changing. So then I'll just put it like this, and it's going to stay with me until I cover it up. After that, everyone also does this at the same time. They reveal B, and they get the cube of that color. Now, since I picked gray, and I get this bonus of getting 2 grays, I'll get 2 grays instead of 1. Ooh, this is working out really well for me. Well, then I'll discard this one, every player will. And then when it gets to C, that is when you're placing people out on the board. Now, when you do that, you're going to have to pay 2 cubes of that color, particular color. Now, there are cards that allow you to play 1 cube of a certain color, but I'd have to pay 2 gray cubes, and so I'm going to pay 2 gray cubes, and I'm going to put my man in a gray area, and it could be any one of these. I'll put it right here. Now let me take a time out here and kind of show you how someone is captured. If later on I was to place a person here, I would surround this person, this little puma or whatever, and I'd take it and I would get what it says here, 2 victory points. So I get 2 victory points, 1, 2, and then I would keep it in my little stash here. Now, you can capture more than one on one turn. For instance, if I had one here, and then another turn I placed one here. Well, I not only surround this one, but this one has 4, which if you look, you can be 1, 2, 3, 4. So I actually surrounded both of these at the same time, so I would get both of them. So that's kind of how it goes when you are collecting these animals, and you stay on that. Now, other people can also play on these areas too. It's not just 1 space per person. You can have multiple people there trying to get different types of animals. And a lot of times, look at this one. This one needs 3, and I have 1, 2 already, so I just need to put a 3rd one there, and I would capture that one. So you can see there's kind of a combo effect going in here when you're placing them. So after that, after everyone's placed 1, they will then come over here to D. And D, they're going to move up whatever animal they have here. I moved up a frog. So my frog here would move up 1 space. Now then I would also get a victory point for every frog I've captured. I only have 1, so I would get a victory point. And then that would be a turn. Then first player token would go to someone else, and you do it all over again. Now the game ends depending on how many players there are. These numbers, these little charts here will be moving up the chart here where it says 1, this is 2, this is 3, 4, and 5. Once the number reaches, in a 2-player game, 7, all these total up to 7. So like in a 2-player game, this would be 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. That would end a 2-player game. If it was a 3-player game, you need to have them hit 9. So maybe if I had one here and one here. That would end a 3-player game. 4-player game, these points would have to equal up to 11. But once that happens, that's the end of the game, and then everyone adds up their points. What they do is if they got a complete set of each of the 5 animals, they're going to get 10 bonus points per set. So, I encourage you to get multiple sets, because of course you're trying to get the same animal and move them up here on the price, move them here to the chart to get a lot of points. But if you collect one of each, you're going to get some big victory points at the end. Also, then you're going to add up any of the tokens that you have left over and multiply them by whatever number is shown here on the chart. So for instance, for this one puma, I would get just 1 point, so I get 1 point for him. But for the frog, he's worth 2 points. So if I had multiple frogs, they'd be worth 2 points each. And of course, I would award myself those points. And of course, at the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins. Final thoughts. What do I think about the game? Well, the designer is Stefan Feld. As you know, there are a lot of Feld fans out there. I do enjoy a lot of his games, or the few I played. And when I heard about this one, I said, this one looks interesting, and it was super cheap too. And so I tried it out, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's fun. You're setting up combos with those cards. You're always having to play a card, so you're always going to have to, even though you may have the perfect combination, you're eventually going to have to put another card over it. Now, there is a card that gives you an extra slot, so you can have up to 4 different powers going on, and that's really good, but you need to make sure they combo well. If you're stuck with bad cards, which I was in one game, you ain't going nowhere. So it is kind of luck of the draw, literally, because you can draw, all you need is a beige cube, and all 3 of them are yellow. You're like, I don't need any more yellow. There's no more yellow spaces I want to go to. But that's just the way the game is gone. I do enjoy this game. I think it's awesome. It's not my favorite Feld game, but it is a pretty good game. So if you're a Feld fan, or you like kind of simple, it's very simple, area control in a way, which I don't usually like, but this one's kind of neat though. I like the idea of using those cards for multiple reasons, and the way you set up those cards, the way you play them. Sometimes you're like, no, I don't want to play. I don't want this animal to get any higher. That'll end the game, and I still need more points to catch up. So you will physically kind of hurt yourself just to have one item not go on. Like, well, I'll get another one of these cubes even though I don't need it, or I'll get this superpower, which I really don't need, but I really want this cube, and I really want this animal to go up in, value. It's kind of wild, but that's kind of how the game plays, and I do enjoy that about this game. So this is probably well worth your time. I love it, staying in my collection. All right, gamers, that's all the time I have for now. Until then, game on.